Around the kitchen table, my wife Karen was ready for me. Rich, please sit down. Let's talk. I knew it was going to be bad from the start. I'm sorry, but I've already left the house and asked for a divorce. Karen didn't look at me and talked quickly. Her words sounded like they were practiced. She put an envelope on the table and slid it across to me. Where are the kids? At this point, I was shocked. The kids have moved out and will be living with me. Don't worry though, you will be visited a lot. I've met someone else. You already know that our relationship has been bad for a while. I'm sorry, but this is not a simple thing I can say. If we're not making out, how could things be good between us? At least she was kind enough to look sad and guilty at this point. Rich, I'm sorry about this. I'm truly sorry. I wish things were different. I need to look out for myself and the kids. What is the name of this jerk? I asked, getting more angry. I'm not going to say that. It would only make things worse. So this jerk is taking my wife and kids away from me and calling me a cowboy. But you think you can stay out of trouble? Figure it out. She stood up and walked out the door, saying, If you keep talking like that, I'm leaving. What she did shocked me, but it wasn't really a surprise. We hadn't played together like married people in almost a year and hadn't had sex in months. I thought something was wrong and tried to talk to Karen a lot of times. She always told me there was nothing wrong and that I was just imagining things. Okay, fine. Everyone thought Karen was a beautiful woman. Tall, hot, and with a great body. She picked out beautiful clothes and knew how to wear them well. Since I had to work 6 days a week to support us, I should have paid more attention to her. We played golf at the public course, but she liked the country club better when she went with a friend. We were arguing about joining the club for a long time. I was ready to wait, but Karen was ready for the good life now. I was sure that her new boyfriend was a member or would be soon. It crossed my mind to have a private spy keep an eye on her, but I never did. I might have done better. Still, what would it have changed? The first time she slept with someone else, our marriage was over. When I called the business lawyer the next day, he put me in touch with the divorce lawyer. A meeting was set up for the next day. I told him my kids were the most important thing to me. They told me where they were and when I could see them. We found out from my wife's lawyer that she and the kids were living in a house owned by Gary Anders. It was about 10 years between them, and he was from the country club set. It looks like old money. Karen was giving up my husband in exchange for one with more money, a bigger house, and a country club membership. My lawyer sat me down and told me the bad news. Karen was a stay-at-home mom, and she would give the kids half of our house's value and probably half of my company. That night was the worst of my life. I lived by myself in a house that was empty. My wife slept in another man's bed while my kids lived with him. Years of hard work had paid off to take care of my family and improve their lives and prospects. Now I was being thrown away, and my family was gone. Karen had taken all the knives, forks, and spoons, so I had to heat up a frozen dinner. I looked around until I found a plastic fork, then I sat down to eat. The last straw was that plastic fork. That very moment, I promised myself that this would not happen again. This would not stand, no matter what I had to do, how much it cost, or who I had to kill. Since we got married 8 years ago, I'd been running my own equipment rental business. It was a great business, but I wasn't taking out a lot of money. Besides a simple salary and a bonus for me. The business had put all of its income back into it. As quickly as I could, I bought new tools. I told Karen 100 times that for a few years, we needed to cut back on our personal spending. 10 times the money spent on new tools would be earned back. Karen liked getting things right away, flying first class, and getting a massage at the club more than renting tools. Karen let me spend time with the kids a lot of the time. I took Cheryl, 7, and David, 5, out to dinner about once a week. They stayed at my house every other weekend. It wasn't what I wanted, but my lawyer told me it was better than what most dads got. My lawyer told me a few things. Get the house, don't get mad. It's kind of a play on words by a divorce lawyer. He told me that I was right and she was wrong in terms of the law. In our society, it would not be okay for her to play with me, leave with the kids, and move in with her boyfriend. I needed to make the most of that. Violence and anger would make me lose my moral standing if I used them. He also said that my wife had to feel bad about what she did and that she was probably getting in trouble with our kids, family, and friends. These were good things for our side. I did what he said and tried my best to hold back my anger. It didn't taste very good. But soon, I'll be the one being mean to her and love her. My lawyer was right about how my friends and neighbors would react. They were amazed. Karen's family didn't like her. Her folks called to ask if we could get back together. They told me I had nothing to do with the breakup and that they should talk to their daughter. One night, Karen came back to the house to talk to me. She was trying to get me to believe that our breakup was for the best and that things would be fine after we talked things over. Karen, check out this house. It's just a shell. I no longer have a wife. I no longer have any kids. I no longer have a life. This is no longer a home. It's only a house. Karen, you messed up everything to get rich quickly with your new boyfriend. I told Karen to leave because she was crying. What was going on in Karen's new and better life could be found out from her kids. Friends, on the other hand, gave me the best information. Karen usually told a girlfriend, who then told her husband, who then told me I should make sure I play golf with my friends often. I didn't need to ask anything. My friends couldn't wait to tell me what they knew. People talked a lot about our split. I learned for months that Karen wasn't the one who went to try to cheat. You could tell Anders liked her because he had his eye on her for a long time. Over time, Karen's lawyer offered to split our assets with me for 60%. My lawyer knew this was a plan to get a quick payment. Karen didn't need my cash. Gary and his friends already had too much money to spend. We chose to wait a little longer to see if things could get better. I heard that Karen and Gary were going to get married in June. It was Gary's first wedding, so he was doing everything he normally would have been able to do. The country club was already booked. Karen had plenty of time to split up with Herb and get married in June. But my lawyer was sure that he could use a few tricks to keep things going until then. He asked me if I had to go to Europe for work soon. I told him I thought I should look into a new line of engines made in Scotland. Karen's lawyer quickly saw through the trysts to drag things out and asked what would be needed to get a divorce fast. I meant to say that she doesn't get anything. But my lawyer told me that would not be okay in court. If we don't give her something, it will look like we're taking advantage of her. If our house sold in 10 years or when we sold it, we gave Karen half of what it was worth. No money, no child support or alimony, and no business, ever. She quickly agreed to the deal. The wedding invitations must have already been made because I told them to. It was clear from the words of the contract that this was the end of the deal. Karen wasn't supposed to come back later to ask for more money. After Karen moved out, I quit buying a lot of extra stuff. I used credit to buy the few things I did. I began to save as much money as I could. It was official in February, which was plenty of time for the wedding. I began looking for a house as soon as I had time to myself. I quickly discovered a home with 5 bedrooms, a pool, and an apartment for my in-laws above the garage. It had a big yard for kids and woods behind it. I bought the house with cash from a big bonus I got from work. I rented out the old house so I wouldn't have to pay Karen half of the rent for 10 years. One Friday, I picked up the kids from school and took them to the new house. They really liked it. I called Karen and gave her the new address where she could pick up the kids on Sunday. She was shocked when she got there and saw the house. "Rich, how can you pay for this house? I told you the business would make money one day." "Karen, did you believe I was joking? You ought to have waited a little longer." "Rich, the debt must be killing you, though." "Karen, I paid cash for the house. The business needed more of your attention. The rental stock is worth more than $5 million by itself." "Rich, I didn't know. I really have no idea." There was sadness in her eyes. "Karen, I told you enough times. I'm sorry you didn't listen." When I joined the country club, it was fun to see how Karen and Gary reacted. I felt bad seeing them together when I saw them at the bar, but I know it was worse for them having me there. Karen looked at me over and over. I believe she was feeling bad about what she bought. At least I hope that's what it was. Al was one of my first buyers. A lot of the time, he hired generators and temporary air conditioners and heaters. I also knew that he was connected. What I wanted to happen to Mr. Anders, and I talked about it in private with Al. It was very important to me that it looked like an accident. He told me it would cost more for the accident part. He could put me in touch with the right people or act as a go-between for a fee of about a third of the big deal. I liked the idea of Al being the only person I could talk to and who knew who I was. It would be worth the extra money. After about a week, Al told me it would cost me 75 boxes of ZD. This means $75,000. Along with telling him it had to happen before the June wedding, I gave him the go-ahead. Thoughts turned to worry as the wedding date got closer after weeks passed. He was found dead in a cheap hotel outside of town less than a week before the wedding. He seems to have been having a good time at his bachelor party. The night before he died, he was drunk and having fun with a girl. Near the end of the night, two hot women seemed to be making out with Gary. The guests thought they were paid hookers to have fun with the groom. They led him away from the party and to a motel, where he did a few things, one of which was sniff some coke. After that, he took a drug sniff. That was the end of poor Mr. Anders. Uma Thurman snorted drugs by accident in Pulp Fiction, which is one of my favorite movies. It is not a good idea to snort heroin, even though it looks a lot like cocaine. It's too bad John Travolta wasn't there to save Gary. Did his death make me feel bad? No way, buddy. He took my wife and kids away from me. I would have watched him act like my kid's dad for 20 years if he were still alive. In my mind, I was sitting in the back of a church at the wedding of my little girl, while that jerk led Cheryl down the aisle. That was never going to happen. I spent the best $75,000 I've ever had. From what I know, they never found the hookers or found out who hired them to entertain the groom. The good news is that they found no signs of foul play. I went to Gary's grave a few days after the funeral and stuck a plastic fork into the ground. It had been saved. Karen was upset about Gary's death, which was only natural. That may not be the best way to put it, but I didn't care how upset she was that her dream life had turned into a nightmare. Thanks for joining. Someone from the law firm showed up at Karen's door 3 months after the funeral. His family wanted to know when Karen and the kids were going to move out. He was very nice about it. Karen wasn't married to Gary and wasn't in his will. To make things even worse, Karen had been using credit cards that were registered to her to pay for the wedding. She no longer had a job or a sugar daddy. Karen ran to her lawyer, who dragged me back into court to ask for a quick change to the divorce. The judge didn't like that she didn't have any money and told her to get a job. He said that Karen had been pleased with the deal a few months before. He also wrote down the final words of the deal above Karen's signature. That deal never had anything to do with Gary Anders or his money. The court didn't think his death changed anything, so it ended there. During the hearing, one of Karen's lawyers was looking at me funny. I think he was thinking about how strange it was that Gary Anders died right after the divorce and before the wedding. The worst time possible for Karen. He should look and think about it. My lawyer told me that Karen and the kids should come live with me since they were going to be homeless soon. Karen's parents lived in a house with only 1 bedroom. Where were the kids going to live? Karen had been given full physical custody, but that had to change now. My lawyer made the case that I should get full physical custody. I had a safe home and enough money to hire a live-in nanny or housekeeper. In line with the rules of the divorce, he said I would not ask for child support because my ex-wife was having money problems. Karen was very upset that the judge agreed with my lawyer. After the court case, we made plans for the kids to move in with me the next day. Karen was crying, but I wasn't moved. I did ask her to meet me for lunch the next day to talk about the maid nanny. It was great to have Cheryl and David with me. My sister moved in for a few days to help them get settled and spend time with them at lunch. I told my ex the truth. Hi Karen, I want you to take the job as a maid and guardian. Do you mean it? She wasn't sure what to do with this thought. I mean business. You can make the in-law room in the house your own. You will get $400 a week plus food and lodging. The best part is that you'll get to spend every day with your kids. Rich, this seems too good to be true. This deal has to have a bad side. Of course, Karen, you will have to follow a few special rules. You can't have boyfriends or go on dates while you live in the house, that's the first rule. As for the second rule, you have to give me sex whenever, wherever, and however I want. Karen was shocked. You're crazy. Did you really believe I would agree to work for you? Karen, you're not a slave girl. You won't get beaten. Also, don't call me master or anything like that. You won't get hurt. There might be a few spankings, but nothing too painful. Karen sat still for a while and then asked, And you won't have girlfriends? That's when I knew I had her. The deal was going to be bought by her. I was not sure if the need for spanking was a plus or a minus in her choice. It was exciting for me to find out. I can have any girlfriend I want. I won't bring them inside, though, or rub them in your nose. Rich, are we going to do things together? Like sports, movies, parties, and other fun things? Karen, we're not going to get married. Never ever. Those times are over. Things will be fine, though, if you treat me well and serve me with a smile. Do the right thing by me, and I'll do the same for you. You won't have my last name, but we'll share a house and kids. I will never trust you again, though. We are not going to get married, and I am going to kick you out with nothing. If you ever insult me, cross me, or turn me down. 2 days after that, Karen moved into the apartment with her in-laws. The kids were glad we were all back together. I let Karen get settled the first night. But the next night, I told her to take a shower and come to my room at 11 o'clock. Thank you. Put on something hot. Tonight I'm going to use her the way I want to. The way I treat her now is something I could never do before she left. I still treat her like a lady. I don't care about our sex life anymore, though. I enjoy spanking her. Things are fine between us when we're with our kids or our friends. But when it comes to sex, I love seeing her move around. Is this okay? Is this good for you? I really don't care. She built her a home. She can now lie down in it. Is she going to cheat on me again? I'm not sure. I don't really care, though. She needs to be quiet or she will be sent out. The big question now. Do I really love her? I'm not sure what that word means any longer. I knew I was living a great life before Karen left. The dream of every American. Now I'm not sure how I feel when I see her taking care of a sick child. I adore her. On Christmas morning I love her. But not long ago, I walked into the kitchen and saw her working on some papers at the kitchen table. The same table where she told me she was leaving me to watch the kids. That day, I didn't love her. My life is no longer perfect. It won't happen again. I no longer eat frozen food with a plastic fork in an empty house, though. Will I ever let her win again? No way. Is she going to take my kids away from me again? There's no way. Will I marry her again? In this life, no way. That's pretty far, I guess. But things are the way they are. Until the next time.